Salesvision 100 video challenge, doing 100 videos in 100 days, and it is video number or day number 46, I believe. Alrighty, and what we've been doing is the 21 irrefutable laws of leadership. The last one we did was I wanted to elaborate on, and we were on the law of priorities. We did number 17 and number 18 the other day, the law of priorities and the law of sacrifice. And I wanted to elaborate on these because this is two principles that are really very important. The law of priorities. That is about the importance of organization, activity versus accomplishment. Okay, with the importance of organization, to be an effective leader, an effective leader is organized. They're able to prioritize, and not just prioritize as in making a list, what you need to do, but what actually moves the needle and is produces the most result. It says activity versus accomplishment. Just because you're busy doing activity all the time doesn't mean you're being productive, and that it's activity that's actually moving the needle, like as in income producing activity or result driven activity. So you could be busy all day doing stuff and then feel like you got nowhere, like you accomplished nothing. And you may think you were productive, but when you look at it, you didn't actually do anything that really got you closer to your goal. So when we talk about activity versus accomplishment, you want to use what we call, you've probably heard of the Pareto principle, also known as the 80-20 rule, or the law of the vital few. It's also known as the principle of factor sparsity. What that basically means is that for many events, and we're talking about leadership and productivity, but also in science, in math, in economics, sports. This 80-20 rule is known in a lot of different areas, but basically it states that roughly 80% of the effects come from 20%. Yeah, 80% of the effects come from 20% of the causes. It was named by a management consultant who named it after an Italian economist named Vilfredo Pareto. And John Maxwell, when he did the 21 irrefutable laws of leadership, and he also runs the John Maxwell program, he talked a lot about the 80-20 rule. Basically, 20% of your activities account for 80% of your results. So everything you do, every day, only 20% of what you do really is what matters and is a real priority that drives you towards your goal and towards results. Whereas 80% of it is like a lot of busy work. It might be things that you can outsource to somebody else to do, like little things that need to get done, but they're not part of that key 20%. You want to think about prioritizing your priorities. In fact, John Maxwell came up with 5 steps to prioritize your priorities. Okay, so this is one way to figure out what is that 20% that is really important, that is accounting for 80% of the results. So the 5 steps consist of writing down your main goal. Number 1, write down your main goal. What's your overriding goal, your vision, your guiding light as you create your rule of 5. He called this the rule of 5. Your rule of 5 are basically the steps you take in order to achieve your goal. So after you write down your main goal, number 1, then you build your important list. That's number 2. It can be done in a variety of ways. You can make a to-do list for your day and include everything that must be done that day, as well as items that you aim to do over time. Or you could write down a list of everything you do to be successful, all the different activities you do. It can range from reading and writing to engaging with the team members to building relationships and building rapport. Once you've done that and you've got your important list, then number 3, you want to rank the items in order of priority. If various items are similar, you can categorize them to help with the prioritization process if there's several things that kind of go into one category. Number 4, you want to highlight the top 20% of your priorities and make a memorable list of 5 things that allow you to allocate the majority of your time to those 5 things. That's to the top 20%. Then print your rule of 5 and hang it where it is frequently seen. Repetition is key, and you want to get into a routine every day where you're repeating that, rule of 5, that you make sure every day you get those done. Repetition and consistency. Okay. Also, it talks about the 3 R's: required, return, and reward. What that refers to is to ask yourself, as a leader, you want to ask yourself lofty questions. It was referred to as the John Wooden principle because Maxwell knew a famous basketball coach that was celebrated for being a great leader, John Wooden, and he talked about asking yourself, as a leader, asking yourself questions every day. So John Maxwell came up with 7 questions that he would ask himself based on that principle. He actually wrote a book called Good Leaders Ask Great Questions. He'd ask himself, am I investing in myself? Am I genuinely interested in others? Am I adding value to my team? Am I investing my team with the right people? So we call them, lofty questions, or, questions that it's not so much the question that's important, that you get in the habit of evaluating and asking questions every day. Like John Wooden would ask himself every day, how could I make the team better? So that way it focuses you every day on what you need to think about, to get clarity, to know who you are serving, to know what you need to do to get better, to know your why. Why am I doing this? Questions like that. So when he talks about the 3 R's, he asks himself, what is required of me? The 3 R's: required is what is required of me. Any realistic assessment of priorities in any area of life must start with a realistic assessment of what you must do. Okay, so what must I do? What's required of me to be in my role as, a leader, or as a good spouse, or as a parent? What is required of me? If you're an employee, to satisfy your employer, what must you do? What's required of you? If you're a leader and you lead others, what must you personally do that cannot be delegated to anyone else? Okay, then the second question would be, what gives me the greatest return? As you progress in your career, you begin to discover that some activities, the 20% we're talking about, yield a much higher return for the effort than others do. So after determining the requirements of what is required of you, then you want to focus on what choices have the highest return on investment, what is referred to in the business world as ROI. And then if you do only what's required of you and what gives you the greatest return, there's still something missing. If you want to keep going, then you also have to get some satisfaction and enjoyment out of all this. So that's where we come to reward. What gives me the greatest reward? What gives me the greatest personal satisfaction? Not just what gives me the greatest return, which is more about what is effective, but that has more to do with being highly productive. But if you're not content, you're not going to keep it up. So you also have to consider what gives you personal satisfaction, what gives you the greatest reward. Okay, I think that's the main things I wanted to. I have some pointers I had written down here. Yeah, the main steps about prioritizing. Okay, and then we go into number 18, the law of sacrifice. This is pretty self-explanatory. As a leader, you have to give up to go up. And the true nature of leadership is sacrifice. To become a good leader, you have to be willing to sacrifice for the team. That is part of leadership. When you become a leader, you lose the right to think about yourself. That's a quote by Gerald Brooks. So you are no longer considering just what's good for you. You're a representative of who you lead. So what's good for everybody. And you want to think about that in a broad sense about everything you do and all your priorities. Evaluate them in the sense of the team. What sacrifices do you need to do for the greater good of the team? Maybe you need to take on a certain role to demonstrate, to lead by example so that they'll follow and they'll be able to, implement what you want the team to implement. All right, I guess that's where we'll end today. We're getting towards the end. We have 3 laws left, 19, 20, and 21. So we'll probably cover them in the next episode. Have a great weekend, guys. Love you. This is Lisa signing off. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel, please. And give me a comment. Give me a like below. If you liked the video, give me a thumbs up and give me some comments. Give me some suggestions on what you'd like me to make videos about. I love you guys. Bye.